good to go. First of all, not a lot of green in this room tonight, but there's a sea of beautiful GBEA blue. Yay. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome to our regular board meeting for March 17th, 2025. First, we'll start with a roll call. Kinsey?
Becker,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Lyerly,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
Gerlach. Here. Crossan,
Here.
Lee.
Koo will not be able to join us tonight. Okay. We are joined at the table by two students from ICSC. Can you guys please introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Andres Mora, and I'm a senior at Pueblo High School, and I'm the Green Bay Intercity Student Council President.
Hello, my name is Wendy Rivas, and I'm a freshman at West High School.
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Will you all please rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Would someone like to read the mission statement, please?
We educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world.
Thank you, Brian. And for the land acknowledgement statement, we, the members of the Green Bay Area Public School District, recognize and honor the original inhabitants of Northeast Wisconsin. Our district lives, works, and learns upon the ancestral homelands of the Menominee and Ho-Chunk Nation and the current homeland of Oneida Nation. We acknowledge the 12 diverse and vibrant Wisconsin First Nations who have persevered here since before recorded time and continue to be integral parts of our community. We uphold our responsibility to repair relationships, initiate partnerships, and stand with all First Nation communities. Okay. We're going to move on to open forum. First, we're going to hear from our Intercity Student Council members.
All right. So first, we have East, and their girls' soccer is starting during spring break, and then we also have that their track season has started, and then the Muslim Student Association had a festive feast lunch fundraiser. And then at John Dewey, we have one student qualified for forensic state. Their school dance was successful. 5 students went to National History Day, State in Madison on May 3rd, and Paws and Claws class made a connection with a barn. I don't think that's right. And traveled to a barn to make enrichment pieces for the animal. Okay. And then over at Preble, they had their NHS bake sale. 20 DECA students made it to state, and 11 are going on to nationals in Orlando, Florida. There were 444 high honor roll students and 325 honor roll students last semester. 6 students are going to state for forensics. The academic decathlon team finished 3rd in their Division I category and 6th overall at the state competition. And the team also won state speech and interview championship. For state hockey, Hannah Von Hayden won the state championship with the Ice Bears hockey team. For Skills USA, 4 students placed in the state competition. Solo ensemble, there were 62 state qualifier instances for the vocal event. There were 90 instrumental and 42 for orchestra. Preble's marketing co-op class created a Chick-fil-A marketing campaign and presented their agency projects to a panel of judges. And then also, it's the start of spring sports season. The show choir had their last competition last week in Janesville, and then they placed 5th. And then the Preble 5K is taking place on May 10th.
For Southwest, the choir concert is tomorrow, and the band Swing Fling took place last week raised a lot of money for the music department. The first track meet is Tuesday, March 18 at UWO. The King of Troy was successful. The solo ensemble was successful. The esports team took fourth in the state in the Mario Kart Championship. At West, for forensics members qualified for state. Oh, forensics members, sorry. The Cinderella musical was successful performance. The spring sports are starting. The academic award ceremony is this Wednesday during advisory. West ICSC representatives were in West students in the spotlight for March newsletter. The FCCLA is sending 4 students to the state championship. The FBLA is sending 1 student for state. Junior prom and senior ball is on April 5th in the Riverside Ballroom. National Honor Society ceremony is April 17th.
And that's all we have for today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Next is our public forum. Now, if you are interested in speaking at podium, you have to fill out one of these pink sheets. I only have one, so if more of you want to speak, now would be the time to fill one out and get that to Kinsey. So, but other than that, Mr. Brent Bergstrom.
Brent Bergstrom, 3984 Woodland Road, Green Bay. My name is Brent Bergstrom. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a music educator and proud product of the Green Bay Area Public Schools, currently serving as the Green Bay Education Association president, representing over 1,300 of our education staff. We, the members of GBA, are here to do what we do best, and that is educate. These are unprecedented times, but what much of the general public may not realize is that we are not optimistic of our legislators doing the right thing for our kids. Time and time again, they have funneled money out of public schools, which 90 to 95% of students across the country attend to fund private voucher schools instead with our public dollars. It's time for communities to stand up against this destructive pattern. And as we wait, we recommend the school board wait on freezing any riders until we see a budget passed by the state legislature. Even though we are regularly facing a massive deficit, our district is doing the best they can with continued inadequate funding. When matched for inflation, capital for public schools falls below what it should have been in 2009. That's 16 years ago. Our community needs to start pointing fingers at the legislators in Madison who are responsible for underfunding our public schools and stealing money to pay for private vouchers. Special education in the 23-24 school year was reimbursed at 29% for public schools that 90 to 95% of students attend, while the voucher schools were reimbursed at 90% with little to no accountability. Make it make sense. Now, further threats loom over our heads to take away federal funding. They're prepared to use every distraction to divide and separate us. Billionaires like Elon Musk don't want us to work together. There's a reason their work is rooted in division. When we're divided, we are weaker and the rich get richer. Our current funding models are not what's best for public education. The funding is about division and privatization. It's about attempting to keep our communities uneducated so they cannot fight for themselves against fascists and billionaires. Follow the money. The Department of Education accounts for 4% of all federal funding. Percent to educate all of the country's youth, which seems like a pretty low investment on our future. We will not let fear and division win. Our community trusts us with their kids. Our kids, all day, every day. Trust the educators when we say the funding that the state is failing to provide to serve our kids isn't working. It is a broken and outdated funding formula from, wait for it, 1993, about 32 years ago when I was in 3rd grade at Keller Elementary, which is now closed partially due to declining enrollment, but more accurately due to stagnant funding by the state legislature. We know smaller class sizes, more resources, and highly qualified and skilled staff improves our learning outcomes, and our district continually works hard to try and provide that and more with much, much less. Tonight, you also look at our updated benefit plan, which puts more financial strain on our staff across the district. Thanks once again to the state legislature and profiting private health insurance and big pharmaceutical companies, there are more things coming. While the GBA was involved in these discussions, we stand adamantly against the changes with the realization things are tied. We understand the rationale, but we cannot continue to accept constant financial strain on the backs of all education staff across the district. We realize this fight is bigger than the district, and it is my hope that our community comes together for our students and families. So please write, call, email, knock on your legislator's door, regularly demanding we adequately fund public schools by passing Evers' budget, which is still inadequate, but ups it to a 60% reimbursement special education rate in public schools. Public school families should be fuming at the inequity of funding for our kids. Make it make sense. I beg the board, the district, the union, and our community to rise together and fight for funding public schools, because we know when we fight, we win. When we fight, we're not backing down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if no one else wants to speak, I'm just going to check one more time. Okay. We're going to move on now to the superintendent's update.
Did I do that or did you do that? Oh, shoot. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Again, we're going to focus on the portrait of a graduate as we go through some of the wonderful things that have happened in the district over the last week. Beginning with, under academic achievers, there was a literacy showcase at Chapel Elementary where elected officials were were invited to join Chris Warden, the principal over at Chapel, and David Johns, who facilitated an amazing opportunity for the legislators to get into some classrooms and see really, really good work. The teachers were amazing. I couldn't say enough about the experience, watching the faces of the state legislators as they saw the lessons firsthand, and David gave them specific things to look for, and then did a follow-up debrief afterwards, and the feedback from the state legislatures was very positive. Also under academic achievers, on the left, sixth graders at Da Vinci in Mr. Dennis's class had wind-up toy races after they discussed potential and kinetic energy. They made simple circuits, which included batteries, wire, a motor, a fan, and a switch. And on the right-hand side, those are Doty fourth graders. They've been learning about chain reaction and the transfer of energy, and were able to do an activity to put it to a test. Can you tell what that is? Can you tell what that is? Eggs. Second graders at McCullough, they have chicken eggs, and they've been incubating for the last 21 days, and the eggs are just now starting to hatch. You can actually live stream this. They're live streaming it right now. And if you are curious, go to their YouTube page. You can find the link on their Facebook page, the McCullough Elementary Facebook page. Might even be hatching as we speak. Nobody's going to watch our meeting. On the left-hand side, our Director of Food Service, Lynette Keno, and I And a couple of the family engagement coordinators met with some parents to discuss ways to improve our school lunches for our student population. It was a really great meeting. We met at the library on the east side of town. Really great discussion, learning more about how we can make improvements to what we're offering our students so that it's more like what they get at home. As a result of that meeting, Lynette's going to form a advisory committee with those parents and help them understand the constraints that we have in food service for our children, but then also create menus for our students based on what they learned. On the right-hand side, Langley students and families collected over 8,000 items for the Help the Homeless drive. Last year, they had collected about 4,800, so the principal challenged the students and families and community to beat that amount, and they did. How cool is this? Okay, this happened today, about 2 weeks ago, and this is under the Portrait of a Graduate Communicators and Connectors. I received a letter on the right-hand side from a third grader at MacArthur. She noticed that some of her classmates were hungry during the day, and showing empathy, she wondered if we could brainstorm, help get them food in between lunchtime and the end of the day. So I brought Lynette with me, and we met her and her classmates today to talk about what can we do as a school community to help our students. Under personal architects, you had already mentioned this one, the DECA one on the left-hand side. Actually, it's both pictures. I've had the privilege of being a part of the judging committee for this DECA event. They do it every year. The students choose what business out in the community they would like to do a marketing campaign for. And then they have 3 teams compete. And the judges include Mayor Genrich. And this year it included a marketing specialist from the Packers. It was high intensity for these students, and they were absolutely remarkable. We have so much to be proud of. Under leaders and teammates, this is our staff. Over the last couple of weeks, staff from across the district have been not just going to conference, leading presentations. So this past week, members from our technology department attended the Brainstorm conference. 3 of them, including Amy over here, presented at the conference representing the great work that takes place by members of our department. Green Bay was also represented at the Wisconsin Education Technology Leaders Clinic. Other districts shared their appreciation for the vast representation Green Bay had at the event. We're thankful to those that attended that represented our librarians, technology integrators, and family engagement teams. The team sent the following message: Green Bay is a great place to work and serve. Thank you for allowing us to represent the wonderful members of our team. On the bottom right, we are seeing positive results academically from our students. And it's been a long time since we've been able to say that. And it's from the hard work of our teachers and administrators at the schools who are making a difference in the classroom. That bottom right picture is a group of district teachers and admin who created and facilitated presentations at the Mid-School Math National Conference in Santa Fe last week. Over 350 educators from across the nation were able to learn from Green Bay educators. Continuing under leaders and teammates, a team of Green Bay Area Public School District teachers attended the Wisconsin Council for Social Studies this weekend in Madison. Our teachers attended sessions where they worked with state legislators on social studies advocacy. They gained instructional engagement strategies and learned how to incorporate First Nations, Black history, and Asian American history into our curriculum. There were 2 Green Bay Area Public School District staff members that presented in these sessions. In the first session, Teaching Beyond Black History Month, they presented in collaboration with African American Jewish Friendship Group and a Madison Metropolitan School District teacher. Their portion was on how Green Bay Area Public School District vetted and adopted a comprehensive instructional resource that included multiple perspectives on events throughout history from our universal secondary school social studies curriculum. In the second session, titled Fold in the Cheese, How Do You Make Resource Fidelity Engaging? They tackled the why behind utilizing high quality instructional materials. And on the right, still under leaders and teammates last week, thank you, Mr. Cross, and for the invitation and allowing me the opportunity to meet these two gentlemen, Jason and Dee from the men's group referred to in the article on the right-hand side. This is a group that meets in Green Bay, I think weekly, for adult men in the community, a gathering place where they can just share and grow and learn together. And this opened an opportunity for us as a district to collaborate with them to make an impact for our students. I'm looking forward to that work, and there'll be more to come. Under Empowered Navigators, one of our singers from the Together We Are One video from the beginning of the year, Neil at Washington, he was the lead, one of the leads in the play last weekend, Anastasia, and he invited me to come and listen to it. He played Dimitri. He's got a great voice, and the lead, Anastasia, was absolutely amazing. So congratulations to the Washington performers. And then on the fourth grade, on the right, the fourth graders at Doty sharpened their practical skills by going to Barkhausen and learning how to tap trees. And then lastly, alumni, I wanted to share, I think I'd mentioned to the board before, but that's AJ Gemmer. He is currently the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Lunar Outpost. He's a Southwest graduate. And he started this company in 2017. He was recently asked to provide some encouraging words for our students back here in Wisconsin. And he said, as for words of encouragement, for me, it has all been about perseverance. When we started Lunar Outpost in 2017, I never could have guessed the challenges we'd have to overcome and how long it would take. You're not in control of the problems you'll face, but you can control how you respond to them. Dreams are worth pursuing, even if they take longer than expected. So his company was part of the launch last week. It wasn't successful. His equipment was successful, the rest not so great. But we're really proud of AJ, and we look forward to him coming back to Green Bay to share his experiences with us. And that concludes. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Okay. Next is our legislative update. Brian?
A lot of what I was going to say was covered earlier with the public forum section. So I had a couple of key points once again on the proposed budget by Governor Evers. It includes increasing special education funding reimbursement to 60% of their cost, which doubles their current reimbursement, but it's still below the 90%. It includes an additional $3.15 billion in public education across the board, puts another $300 million in funds to get let out of service lines, water fountains, and childcare centers. More than $60 million increase for technical colleges, and increases the $325 per student increase in the first year and to $345 in the second year. This money is money that's being spent locally as well. You know, as our budget goes, it's 80, Angie, I'm hoping I'm right, it's about 80%, 85% pay, which stays in the community. All these people out here spend their money locally, and it has a direct investment within our community. So it makes sense. Besides the right thing to obviously fund public education fully, it helps all of the local communities, and the whole state is impacted by it. So while we can't encourage people to contact people, Governor Evers' budget will need assistance going forward. So I hope anyone listening sees that and continues to support public education in our schools, in our state.
Brian, has there been any budget listening sessions scheduled yet that you know of?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure we can find them.
They'll be coming, I'm sure. All right. Thank you. Next, we're going to, Kale's going to join us at the table and we're going to get an update on the Clean Energy Advisory Committee. It's okay if it's brief.
Thank you. So this was our first meeting since the recommendation addressing the resolution was passed. It was overall kind of re-engaging the group and trying to look forward on next steps for this team. So we're inviting some guests in at our next meeting, looking potentially to survey our community, students, staff, to see what they would like to see outcomes of this committee, as well as tracking and monitoring progress towards the goals set for the resolution.
Okay,
Yep, and for the board, we do have meetings scheduled now monthly moving forward, and that's when we'll be meeting.
okay. Does anyone have any questions for Kale? Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving on to discussion items. And that the first, the only item on discussion is status of Catherine Johnson Academy of Enriched Virtual Learning, and that will be David Johns.
Good evening, board and student leaders. I'm here tonight to share some additional information that was requested from the board last time when we opened up this conversation about KJ Academy. It's organized for you to support your discussion about 3 options that are presented for you for consideration. I'll start with, again, that the intent this evening is to continue the discussion, and that would move us into April as well, ultimately with an opportunity for a decision in the second board meeting in April. Provided for you in the memo is background on the history of KJ, how it came to be after COVID and after most students returned to in-person classrooms. This being built as a school and an option for families to continue virtual learning. The initial enrollment in KJ included students that went beyond our district, but very soon after the opening of KJ, state policies changed, which allowed us only to serve students within our own district at KJ. I'll point out tonight as an expanded piece from what I shared last, well, it was last week, that when the future of KJ came up for the board's consideration over a year ago, the commitment from the KJ staff, and it was an admirable one, was to really want to make sure that the community understood that KJ could serve beyond the initial group of students who were enrolled there as permanent students, and were very quick to adapt and shift programming to meet the needs who were enrolled there for shorter periods of time, sometimes as alternative placements, sometimes due to periods of movement within their life, whether it was to be visiting someone overseas, to be traveling. The opportunity to stay engaged as a learner at KJ was because of the way the staff adapted and flexed. So when you review the enrollment data, you'll notice this various enrollment numbers. You'll notice a total number of students served, which is inclusive of the plus or minus the ins and the outs of a program that, again, adapted and evolved to serve students beyond a core group who were there for the completed year. You'll notice that there's enrollment data provided for students who were enrolled by the third Friday count. That's a critical count for us as it relates to state funding and our enrollment-based decision-making. You'll notice a enrollment figure for students that were enrolled at the end of the school year. And then since KJ began year over year, additional grades were added, moving all the way up to what is now a program that serves K through 8. So 9 grade levels of students are served. And you'll see enrollment data as really just the math problem of total number of students divided across the grade levels that were served. What I've also chosen to share with you, and I believe is a compelling shift in KJ's enrollment trends, is the ways in which the middle school enrollment has grown. Now, that's grown for a few reasons. Many of those middle school students were with KJ from the very beginning. There are 23 students currently at KJ who were there when the program started in 21-22. So naturally, they're aging through the program. The increase in middle school students is also a reflection of, again, how KJ positioned themselves to serve the needs for students who were in some temporary placements as well. So that's the data presented to you. 24-25 data is just to date. And as a program, again, that we have shared frequently enrolls students for short periods of time for a variety of reasons. You'll see that that's just showing enrollment data through 3/11/25, which was last week. Some projections for 25-26 are really just rolling those numbers forward. So an assumption there is that all of the students who are currently there would roll forward. We don't know how many partners would enroll. We don't know what additional new numbers we would get. So I just want to be real clear on that. That is just a mathematical rollover of those numbers for you. Questions around marketing KJ within our district. And I think there's a couple ways to think about KJ when it comes to marketing. There's the opportunity to pitch and promote KJ as a school, as a place where a student would unenroll from one of our schools and re-enroll in KJ. Because again, the only way to be served at KJ is to be a Green Bay student. Another way to think about the marketing would be to make sure that people are clear that KJ exists also to serve students for shorter periods of time as well. And so what we've shared with you here is the history of the marketing approaches to make sure that as many people as possible are aware of KJ and its offerings throughout our district. You'll notice a shift in the marketing approach becoming much more internal when we were no longer able to serve students from outside of the district. So I'll pause there just with the data and the information that was requested. Happy to answer any additional questions if I can.
David, I know you've mentioned it before, but there was a shift from the state on being able to open and enroll students into online schools right about the end of COVID. Am I correct?
I'm going to let Vicki field that one as it preceded my time here.
That's correct. They allowed flexibility during COVID, and then when COVID ended, they closed it from out of district.
Lynn?
Is it premature for me to ask questions about the options? Option 1, 2, and 3?
I'm happy to just speak briefly to each of the options, and then we can go with questions to them.
Any other questions go ahead?
I know we keep talking about the population being the reason, the main reason, the number of kids attending this being the reason why we're wanting to shut this down. The question that I still have is, what is the break-even point as far as population of students to attend that option that would make it worth considering keeping open? And then also, I guess, because I went and visited that school the day after the last board meeting last week, to see personally what is going on with that, in that school. I personally saw a great deal of energy, and I didn't tell anybody I was coming there, so they didn't prepare themselves for a board member to show up. I saw commitment, I saw energy on both sides with the students and with those teachers. Um, yeah, it's a different environment. You've got kids who are in their pajamas. You can see things going on in the background, but there was intense monitoring. Those kids who were there had a lot of one-on-one teacher engagement. So they knew what those kids were doing. They could see their screens and what these kids were doing and weren't doing. And I saw things, and I know that I'm still looking for the data that says about their scores, but you would expect kids to have lower scores in because of this particular environment. So you're not necessarily seeing, you know, honor students taking this option. So to, and I know we haven't talked about the scores of these kids being another reason we want to shut this school down, but we got to talk about what the expectations are down to each kid level. I heard reasons why these kids had opted to go into a virtual learning space. A lot of it centered around social emotional learning issues, anxiety issues. Some kids had medical illnesses that prevented them from going to a regular school. And the kids themselves told me why they were feeling it to be in a better place than to be put in a public school. In these options, I'm not hearing any kind of a transition plan for these kids who have these issues and these concerns to put them back into an environment that they've already said they can't function in, or they function less efficiently in, could be catastrophic for those kids. So what I'm saying is maybe this particular school we have to value or consider evaluating the value of this school maybe differently than population, total number of kids. And then in some cases, some of these kids it's known that they're not going to be in it long term. It's a transition. It's a school that has them in there for a short period of time. So we know the population is not going to grow. And then if we're carefully marketing it internally as an option, that has to be evaluated there. And I put some criteria on. I mean, I wouldn't make it like an open enrollment type of scenario. There would be some criteria that we all would establish. You guys would come to us and say, here's what it would take, or here would be the criteria for consideration for admittance of a child into this particular learning option. And then that then could be managed, I would think. But as I look at these options, they seem very close to the same sort of thing. Close the academy, freeze enrollment, freeze enrollment. When I look at options to consider, I would consider, I guess, a broader spectrum, not crazy wide, but just a slightly broader spectrum than these three options that I'm looking at here. That's what I would be looking for. I guess that's all I have to say about that. I just saw good things coming out of that. My first initial emotional response was, this is a good thing. And we better come up, if we're going to close it, we had better come up with something as good or better than the option that we're doing right now.
Sure. Go ahead, Vicki.
To financially sustain the school, would want to see 25 students in each of the classrooms like we have in our other elementary schools. That would bring the total enrollment up to 225. And what I like about what you said is that this is a unique school in that it meets the needs of students that desperately need something different than a conventional classroom. We identify that. And I think when David gets to option 3, you're going to hear that we're not interested in closing a school and then just throwing children back into an environment where they couldn't succeed initially. There are options, and I think 3 will spell that out.
Any other questions at this point? Okay, go ahead, David.
Okay, thank you. I'll touch on the options, and then continue the conversation from there. Option one is, as you said, Mr. Crossan, very narrow and clear, and that is to close KJ Academy beginning as soon as next school year. What is described in there is a general approach to returning students to their home attendance area, or a different school if the nature of concern is related to the home attendance area. That would be a situation we would work individually with families for. That is a narrowly defined and would be the most current option there. The second option freezes the enrollment and delays that by 1 year to be able to, again, support families in a 1 or 2 year return to school, including partial returns, to be able to support students to move back into the comprehensive school setting in maybe smaller doses than all at once for all day. Option three is actually quite informed by a lot of the correspondence that I've received and that you've received, and that is to reimagine KJ not as much as a school, but as a program, and to recognize that KJ has the potential, as its namesake, to really innovate and explore beyond the defined boundaries. And so there are some things that go along with calling it a school that actually limit it to some extent. Thinking about it as a program opens up opportunities to think about students being co-enrolled in a home neighborhood school, but potentially being served through KJ for anywhere up to a full day, but also for shorter periods of time that would be defined. Less about a student moving in and out of KJ in the ways that we do it now, but a student who possibly takes math and language arts virtually and then takes PE, art, and music in a traditional school setting. It would allow for that if we worked with it as a co-enrolled program. The other direction it allows us to move into is the secondary space, and recognizing that we've made a commitment to build out online learning experiences for our secondary students, particularly our high school students. And in envisioning KJ as a program, then it really becomes the hub for all things virtual in our district. It becomes individualized and supportive for students who need it the most. And it becomes a viable option for our high school students, especially, to take courses that aren't readily available to them within their schools, that are consistent with our thriving student body strategic planning priority, and that is really to create as many pathways as possible for our students based on their career interests and participation. So option three opens up all of that. It would have to be done with a thorough, committed year of exploration and development as we would phase out KJ as a school and reopen it as a program.
Thank you. I'm trying to pick my jaw up off the floor here. I don't think anyone's really serious about option one or option two, and they're not. Those aren't really options, and I don't think we really meant them. I think they're there if, you know, I think we know that probably this isn't where the board was headed anyways. It sounds good, right? Reimagine it and make it something for everybody and make it something bigger. And I'm sorry, and I know a lot of this is history of people that came before me, but people change and good people get into spots and good people are in spots right now. But historical inertia doesn't change. And reimagining something into something new, reimagining is not something, and getting outside the box is not something that we're very strong at here historically. We have two things that were great, right? We built John Dewey, which is amazing. We built We built the NEW school, which is an amazing option. And we built KJ, and it's going to sound great to say, let's reimagine this into a program, but there's nothing, I heard nothing here that we don't have to detach it from its identity as a school to co-enroll. We co-enroll all the time, right? We have students taking classes at a couple different schools regularly. What I think you have here is, if you do this, even with option 3, you're going to cut the heart out of the program, and maybe some amount of more kids will get involved, but it's important that this has an identity as a school too. I don't think most people want to spend their whole K-12 with online learning, although if they do, I want them to do it here in a school with a name that they're part of, instead of being the other, instead of being the, oh yeah, one of the 7 Franklin kids that's online, right? I want them to be one of the 28 middle school kids that are at KJ, or 42, or however many. I think it would be a tragic mistake here to do this. We will lose people who are benefiting from this, who won't believe they're going to get the same thing somewhere else. And identity is really important. The identity of a school is really important. And if we are going to make it a program, which I think the expansion elements are great, but it should stay a school. If you're going to say it's going to save the money, then that's still money that we're cutting out of this online school, and it's not going to be able to function the same. And I always thought that we were pretty progressive about making a commitment to people and using the benefit of our size to develop things for for students that aren't thriving in other environments and are looking for something different. And I'm just shocked that we would get rid of this. Again, I'm not saying don't do the things do some of these expansion things. You can do that. I think we should do that. But I think it would be a horrendous mistake. You will lose people out of the school system altogether. You will lose people to private school, to homeschool. You will lose people to other districts. Some will try this new format where they're attached to a school, but they'll be, despite everyone's best intentions, they'll be one of the 7 online kids at that school. Despite everyone's best intention to include them, they will still be an other and a out group. And why do that when something is working? And there's a lot of things I would cut before I would do this.
We got Brian and James has been waiting a long time, and then we'll go to Lynn.
I understand what you're saying, Andrew, and on a lot of the things I agree with you, but I think this is a great opportunity for kids that don't want to enroll full-time in an online thing. And I see a lot of times with middle school students that have had, they receive programming in different areas, and the online aspect has helped them refocus on either academics or their social and emotional challenges or behavior concerns that have come up, and it's given them that opportunity to return into a traditional school if they want to. I think I appreciate the secondary schools emphasis on this, because it does present an option for our high school students to continue to take classes that they may or may not have had at their high school, and those middle school students to have that opportunity in there. So I appreciate the effort that's gone into this. I can see how it could actually expand the program with it. I think it's a serious investment for us. And Andrew, I appreciate, I don't have nearly the historical perspective as a board member here, but I'm hoping that we continue to move forward on it. And I appreciate what you've said about in the past, where we've had things that may not have happened with that. I'm hoping, and I have faith in our leadership to hopefully continue to build the program. But I appreciate the option of at least looking forward to it and seeing if we can expand and include other spots on it. I could also envision this as being helping students that may end up at one of our more, I'll say, restrictive settings, get options for us to focus on the academic part while they can work on behavior and policy compliance and other options as well within it. So I think it creates more options for us. So thank you.
James?
Yeah, thank you. So Rick asked a question about break even a little while ago, and I need a little bit more as we evaluate our options, a deeper dive into the answer. I recognize that optimally this enrollment would match that of other schools, but I don't accept that necessarily as a break even point because the costs associated with running a brick and mortar elementary school on-site presence, I think is drastically different than the virtual learning environment that is stood up at KJ. So as we evaluate these options and we look at that break-even point, I'd like a little bit more information about, that answer and including, do these kids ever come on site en masse where we have to provide the monitoring and the para support and the auxiliary resources? And have we ever had 25 kids in a classroom at KJ? And I don't think we have, even at its peak, but I'd like that answer as well.
Thanks, James. Anybody? Go ahead, Lynn.
I love option 3. I love the idea of reimagining. And I think of what COVID was like and what so many other school districts did. And the fact that you folks, I had nothing to do with it, you folks created an online virtual school that teaches the same curriculum as they have in their physical schools. Remember when I went and visited KJ probably about a year ago or more, I came back and I told you about my experience, which was very much like Rick's, that I got to listen to the kids tell me why they were at KJ. But I also saw a little girl on the screen in a hospital bed at St. Vincent Hospital being treated for cancer. And when she got finished with her treatment, she could go back to her school and she would be just exactly where all the other kids were because she was getting the same curriculum. That is the kind of student we have to serve. The little boy who spent half his year in Mexico and half his year here in a physical school, it's wonderful that you created something of, so excellent that we're actually considering. COVID's gone, but we're still considering keeping it. I think reimagining is exactly what needs to be done. I don't quite understand the difference between a school and a program, but I do not have any problems with changing it into a program instead of a school. We got a lot of letters from faculty, from parents. I read them all. And several people suggested some kind of partnership with JDOL. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if that would work, but I'm willing to consider anything. This can be an answer for a lot of students within our district. It has to be economically feasible, absolutely. We can't afford to run it the way it's running. But I would volunteer to be on the team that does the reimagining, and let's take a year and figure this out and make it work, please.
I'm just going to add my voice to this. I agree with option 3 too, as well as far as reimagining. And spending and investing some staff time and seeing what that would look like. I mean, NEW is a pretty new program, all things considering, and that's been adapted and changed over time as the need requires. Same with JDAL, same with Aldo, same with Da Vinci. Some of these specialty programs have had to change and adapt over the years. As the program just gets more sophisticated and a little bit more better understanding of how those particular populations, what their needs are and how we can address them. So I think we should expand our thinking on this. No one seems to want to close that school. So let's address that. Let's talk about it. That's my thoughts on it. Andrew.
Okay, option 3 as it written closes the school. And you're gonna hear that from me over. Option 3 closes the school. Why do we have to throw out a school that's doing, there's nothing here that you can't do. You can co-enroll. You can have students take some of their classes at KJ and some at their home school because it is the same curriculum. I just don't see why we're so hell-bent on finding another close. Is it a stat? Is it to say, well, we got one more, we got up to 7, we didn't quite get up to 12? You could do everything in option 3 without having to close the school. But what you can't do is close the school and let people who have a home there still feel like they have a home. I thought maybe we understood that finally with places like Dewey, with places like NEW, that identity and belonging is important too. And everything is great about, yes, co-enroll, yes, explore beyond the defined boundaries, but there is, and if I'm wrong, I'll admit it, but I don't see what there is here that closing a school gives us something special or extra that we don't have because we can co-enroll.
Lynn?
Could you please explain to us the difference between it having KJ Academy as a school and as a program?
Yeah, I think hearing the importance of identity and belonging and this connection to a place that is yours and that is yours among others is really an important draw to have that identity as a school. The programming does introduce more flexibility. It may make it more appealing to students who actually do just want to engage in part of it. We would be able to market to expand our marketing. It's not that we don't, but we would expand our marketing to families that have chosen homeschooling for partial enrollment periods. As a school currently, KJ takes the forward exam and any students who are enrolled in it as the school would take the exam. And then that would be a school-based data point as well. And so to your point, Ms. Gerlach, about the integrity of the curriculum being in line with the other schools, should it be a program, a student would maintain their identity as a student of a neighborhood school, and then their performance and results would be reflected within that school's performance as well. So that would be another difference with that.
Yes.
So are you saying that if it became a program, it would not be called Katherine Johnson Academy anymore?
I don't think the naming of it would be, it wouldn't put the naming of it in jeopardy as a school. I think part of the reimagining would be what do we call this place and how do we honor who the place was named for from the very beginning?
All right. James, are you good? Okay. Brian, oh, Andrew?
I'll just because I don't see anyone saying, I just can't imagine someone saying, well, I like this idea that I could take 2 classes at another school, but I just absolutely don't want to go to both Edison and KJ, but I will go to Edison and the online like that's not how people are gonna think about this, and that's, when you keep the school, maybe someone do go all the way through and graduate with a KJ diploma if we expand up to high school. I think most won't, but I think you have both options then. For those who really belong to KJ long term, we can do that, and it can be a spot where you're taking some of your classes, or you're taking your classes for a year because you're in Mexico half the year, perhaps visiting family or something. I guess I'm a little more optimistic after some of the comments here that we can keep the identity and belonging, but please don't underestimate the importance of that. The people at this, we have to remember that most of us around this table and at the leadership levels, I am going to say most of us have probably benefited from good opportunities of belonging that have been available as we've moved around schools and systems. Even those who have moved a lot, the connection to a school is important, even if you move schools from year to year. So, all right.
All right, go ahead, Brian.
Andrew, I recognize what you're saying. I disagree on a couple of the parts, but that's the great thing about a board. But looking at how students have enrolled or participated in other events, I recognize that students at Aldo go play in softball and baseball and softball and basketball and other events at Washington. I realize that there's a Green Bay United swim team where they take all 4 high schools and have the kids participate in that. The same thing as I think our wrestling team. We have the Green Bay Ice Hogs, which is a ton of public schools combining in there where the students still have their same identity with their traditional high school on there. I recognize that this is a learning thing, and more so we're looking at the K-8 part of it, but we do it fairly often throughout this district of providing those opportunities. And if it helps a student at East take a class that's not being offered anywhere else because we don't have the numbers, or a student at Preble taking one online course through it and participating in the program, I think it expands our opportunities for our students. And I think that's a great opportunity to grow with it. I also like the opportunity of looking at it for a student that may be on the path to other schools that we have a temporary programming for, as is in the intent at Minoka, of making sure that we don't have students stay there for more than the set amount of time. This gives them an opportunity to participate in both of them. And if a student wants to participate at KJ their whole education experience as a program, I would assume they'd be able to, and that we'd look at a full day programming. It would just be involved with other spots and enrollment at a different school, correct?
Yeah, that would remain an option as we would imagine it as a program. Should it remain a school, if we talk about this being for students beyond 8th grade, and again, I'll just call your attention to the enrollment trend shifting heavily toward middle school students who again will become high school students. The board would need to act on the grade span that defines the school, because currently the school is only defined through 8th grade. I just want to make sure I'm clear on takeaways for additional information the board has requested. Mr. Lyerly, you wanted to go deeper into the break-even point beyond like a student-teacher ratio figure, and happy to provide that for you as it relates to contact time, use of the facilities, and then I think a real part of this conversation will be the older students needing more access to electives and other work that would be part of a curriculum aligned 7th and 8th grade experience. So we'll provide that for you as well. I'm also hearing that there's interest in seeing and discussing the kind of the compare and contrast between if it's a school, this is what it means for it. If it's a program, this is what it means for it. Be happy to set that up for you as a T-chart to continue the discussion.
Brian. Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn.
And also, could we add to that? Exploring, I have no idea what they have in mind, but several people have suggested that this could somehow work together with JDOL. Can we look into that? I have no idea what they mean, but if that's a good option, I'd like to know more about it, because that's a wonderful school too.
Is there good? Go ahead, Vicky.
When before KJ Academy School became a school, our online program was at John Dewey. So that's, I think that's why they're making that connection. John Dewey had online as part of their school. Correct.
Go ahead, Brian, and then Andrew.
Just as a point of,
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just as a point of information on this, I plan on, under item A, I'm sorry, 8A, where we talk about our board meeting schedule, introducing this as a item to be voted on at the next meeting, as an action item. We run into a peculiar situation in April where we could have new members voting on something at the second meeting in April, and this is something that's been going on for a while, so I'm going to ask the board at that point to consider us voting on it at our next meeting with the current makeup of the board.
I'm a little concerned that staff might not have time to respond. Well, no, I take that back. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
take that back.
And originally, we were looking at voting at this meeting, so I think that gives some time on there,
So
so.
we've assigned some new directives you good? Okay, all right. James?
Yeah, so, David, when you're providing that setup or that T-chart, comparing the options between a program and a school, we've really focused on the identity component of that. What I'm interested in is when you talk programming, is if that response could address if the programming changes would alter the methodology, right? When I first visited KJ, I had imagined it to be like a force multiplier where we could have a teacher teach more kids than a traditional classroom, and ultimately it doesn't, because there's this what Rick and Lynn have observed, the high intense contact with the students that doesn't scale to 1 to 30, 1 to 35. So when you're laying out the difference between programming and a school, is it on the table to change the program such that that intensity of contact with the students would change? Because I think that is, if you appreciate the program, that's what you appreciate about the program, right? Is that these kids are getting the attention, a lot of attention during the day, and I'm not. So I think just so that we can make an informed decision, I would appreciate if you are envisioning the teaching methodology to change when you're talking programming.
Okay. Andrew, did you have comments?
I was, I might, but I was pointing to James because of the.
All right. Anybody? Go ahead. No, sorry. No, sorry.
Just one more thing. This whole thing came to us as a cost-saving measure, one of many, of about, what, $800,000. So reimagining then would have to be, you would have to put before us, what, if any, savings would there be by doing this reimagining? And if there is no savings, then where would the cuts in cost come from? That would be the question that I would have. And break even to me is part of a total cost benefit analysis is really what we're looking at, right, James? That's and you're right. It may not be a one-to-one comparison with a regular school and and the cost and the number of students per teacher, because the value will be different. So I'm not necessarily looking for, and when you said 225 students, it's like, whoa, that just didn't feel right for what we're asking the school to do. I don't see those numbers in that school. And if you're doing a one-to-one comparison between that and a regular school, I don't know that that's an apples to apples comparison. I think we got an apple and an orange here. So it'll be a different criteria for measuring value of this school.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to clarify, I think it's important when we're facing a budget deficit that we have this opportunity to talk about areas where we believe there's potential for cost savings and for the board to weigh in on what is most important to you. And if this is important enough, then we would have to look elsewhere, to your point. Where will we find that 800,000?
Anybody else? Sounds like there's a lot of interest in further work and further discussion. Thank you, David.
Happy to provide that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Could someone read that motion, please?
I will read it once I go back on here. I move that the consent agenda items as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. Lynn, are you able to vote online? All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, we're going to move on to action items.
I'd like to make a motion to package some of these action items together.
Okay,
The first one, I'm going to make a motion to package items A, B, and C under action items together.
I'll second that. Do we have to vote on that? Yep. Kinsey? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so I would like to then, if we're going to do that, make a motion to postpone this vote on these three items. What's that? Oh, God, no, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Nope, nope, we're not going to postpone that.
So I'm going to move items A, B, and C as packaged to
Second.
approve. So now we would have discussion on A, B, and C.
Yep, let's discuss. Oh, yeah, yeah. So we're going to take a bunch of votes tonight. And all of these have had a lot of discussion so far already. So in particular, the strategic plan has had months and months of discussion and updates all along the way, and board input as well. So just want to mention that. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Lynn.
If we're not going to ask David to come up and talk about this, I just want to point out that there's been a change since we got the agenda the other day. And that is in the vision, the proposed vision. So if you're going to vote on this, you might want to take a look at it. The vision statement is proposed to have been changed. Should I read it?
Sure.
It says now, Green Bay Area Public School graduates will be academic achievers, communicators and connectors, architects of their own success, leaders and teammates empowered to navigate their own life's journey. I would put the word "and" in there. And leaders and teammates empowered to navigate their own life's journey. But anyway,
All right.
you should be aware of that.
Okay. This is the culmination of a lot of work. And if we're ready, we can go ahead and take the vote. Kinsey?
Crossan,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to D.
I'd like to make a motion that we package items D through J on that.
No, second.
Any discussion? Questions? Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
I move items D through J for approval.
A second.
all right. Again, discussion, questions. Kinsey?
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Okay, we're going to jump ahead to K then. Someone like to read the motion?
With my wife working in the district, I'm going to be recusing myself from K through through U.
All right. Would someone like to make the motion?
I move that the recommended plan design change to the medical plan as presented be approved.
I'll second. Andrew?
Okay, so, what is the out-of-pocket change with this for the median, single and family?
Good evening. Provided the update on Friday to the board. The median participant out-of-pocket cost last year on the $1,500 HRA plan was $2,316.08. The median participant out-of-pocket cost by contract for the high deductible plan was $537.74. The proposed maximum out-of-pocket on the single plan is $1,000 higher, and the proposed maximum out-of-pocket on the family plan is $2,000 higher than the current plan, regardless of how many family members are enrolled. The greatest increase in claims responsibility a family plan will have is $2,000.
I asked my question a week ago. You know what my question was? What's the problem? I mean, what is the average or median amount that our singles and or our families will go up because of going from this 80 to 90%? I asked the question every year we try to change something. I asked it last week ago.
He emailed the board on Friday with the response after he worked with our consultant. Mike, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, if I missed an email, I'm sorry, but I think we still need to get out into the public view. I will.
All right. Are there any other questions regarding this? On K, we're on K. All right, I think we're ready. James, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Then I think we're ready for a vote. Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. Andrew, are you able to vote online? Oh, thank you. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, no. McCoy, yes. Lyerly, yes. Mills abstained. Gerlach, yes. Crossan, yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on to L. Would someone read the motion, please?
I move that the 2025-2026 health insurance rates for the $1,500 deductible health plan with a health reimbursement account and the minimum essential plan for active employees as presented be approved.
Second? All right, questions, discussion? You good, James?
I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead, Kinsey.
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Crossan, yes. Gerlach, yes. Mills abstained. Lyerly, yes. McCoy, yes. Becker, no.
Okay, moving on to M. Lynn, can you read the motion?
I move that the 2025-2026 health insurance rates for the $1,500 deductible health plan with a health reimbursement account, the minimum essential plan, the $500 retiree plan, and the prescription plan for retirees as presented be approved.
I'll second. Any questions? Go ahead, Andrew.
So, well, before we exit the topic of health insurance plans, I apologize if I came across a little hot. There was some information on it similar to what was presented here that was included as part of an email, but rather than being a separate email. I'm still not sure if it includes though what I think is the most important. And I mean, we knew I was going to be voting no anyways here. It's really important to know, yes, it could go up. It could go up 1,000 for singles and 2,000 for families. And it's a worst case scenario, but it's not a far flung worst case scenario because a significant number of people will fall into it. But it is, I think it's relevant whether on average families are going to be spending, close to, 1,500 out of pocket in many cases, or whether only a relatively few families will get there. That's important when we need to know if we're, moving forward and staying at least keeping even with inflation. So.
Right, any further questions or discussion? Go ahead, Rick.
I got one because what I don't want to have folks walk out of here is to say that we don't care about what it is that you're paying. Because I've dealt with these health insurance plans in my previous lives. And I understand that if there's more costs going out than revenue coming in, then this then becomes ultimately insolvent. And so you either take away the risks that create the costs, and you do that by taking people out of the program, or you increase the cost or the premiums to get more money into the program. This is not something that those of us who are voting yes are enjoy doing. I want to make this clear that this is to keep this program viable with with an appropriate amount of revenue coming in to service the program. And short of that, other drastic things would then have to happen if we all said no to this. Because you would either have to reduce the services that you are getting, or the district would have to incur additional costs to make up that gap, money that we've already said we don't have. So I just want to make sure that it's on the record that those of us who are saying yes to this, we understand the dynamics of this. I've dealt with these types of things before, so I understand why this is one of those necessary things to do.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All right, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, no. McCoy, yes. Lyerly, yes. Mills abstained. Gerlach, yes. Crossan, yes.
Okay. Moving on to N. Would someone read the motion, please?
I move to combine N through Q.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they're combined. Would someone,
I'll move N through Q for approval.
I'll second. Give Kinsey a moment. You good? All right. Yes, any discussion? All right, Kinsey?
Crossan,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Mills. Lyerly,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. All right. We are now going to move on to R and go ahead.
I have a motion, and it may be a point of order to see how we do this. But I move that agenda items R, S, and T be combined for a vote, and then I would then request an amendment to that particular amendment once that combination has been approved, or if it's approved.
Okay, so let's do the combination. I'll need a second for that.
Second.
All right, any discussion or questions about the combination of these three items? James?
I guess if we're discussing, can we hear Rick's proposed second amendment to these? Or is that not
Is that okay,
appropriate for
Melissa?
this?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, the reason that I would, and this is about wage increase, freezing
Right.
base wage and advancement on salary schedule recommendation. There's still more information and conversation and alignment as to intent that we need to have before we vote on this. I think this should all be tabled, and with the intent of filling in those gaps of misinformation, misunderstanding. As late as this morning, I'm still learning things about what was, in essence, good faith conversation and agreement between the GBA and the district that we're doing things that are now officially being proposed in these proposals, which took into account the realities of this gap in time between when we know the state budget shows up and when we have to negotiate. And during that block of time, teachers' pay and steps were frozen. And the GBA was aligned with the district in that unofficial agreement of action. This brings it to the forefront, makes it more of a, and hey, this is out there, and formalizes something that has been informally, in good faith, agreed to work, because it takes into account the reality of this difference in when we know the budget, when we have the actual budget number, which is when we can negotiate, and when we probably should have negotiated, like now. So am I getting that?
Yeah, so Rick, or just to summarize, your amendment is going to be to table?
Yes.
Okay,
It will be to
thank you.
table this pending further conversation and discussion. I'm sorry for getting too long on this, but
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Are you finished with your?
yes.
Okay, Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if we do this, it seems like there might be a couple different points. I'm not necessarily opposed to just postponing them as a group. Because I would either vote no or move to postpone the freeze on riders. But S and T are already, those already include, I just want to make sure we're not precluding starting negotiations when a budget happens if we've, because right now, S and T already have a conditional, they're already on pause until the budget is passed. So R is different in that respect, but I would be okay with tabling the combined motion too.
Okay, anyone else have anything they want to say about this? So let's just make it clear the motion is to combine still?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let's take that vote. If everyone's ready, let's take that vote. Kinsey? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so they're combined. So now go ahead and offer your motion.
Right. I move that we table agenda items R, S, and T pending further conversation and discussion between board and district staff. And then we bring it back to a vote.
We gotta put something in a motion that Kinsey can do.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Got it?
Okay.
You got it? Okay. All right, can you read it back, Kinsey? Or is it possible? All right.
To table agenda items R, S, and T pending further conversation between the board and district staff and bring it back to a vote.
Okay.
Anything I'm
Do
missing?
we
Ryan?
want to say anything in that about pending, I don't know, whatever's gonna, budget discussions or budget decisions or passage of the budget? Do we want to include that?
No, because, no, I wouldn't. That's not what I'm asking that we do. That,
All right, James, did you have any input?
Yeah, I was going to agree with Rick there because I think that limits
Okay,
the conversation too much, right? Because ultimately, we would move to table and, the conversations could be broader in scope than just, responsiveness to the state budgeting process.
okay. Lynn,
I second the motion to table.
okay. All right, any other discussion around this? All right, Kinsey,
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Mills, Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan,
aye.
motion carries.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to you. Would someone read the motion, please?
that the issuance of contracts as outlined under Wisconsin statute section 118.22 for the 2024-25 school year as presented be approved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, yes. McCoy, yes. Lyerly, yes. Mills abstain. Gerlach, yes. Crossan, yes.
All right. Be on to V, job description updates. Somebody read the motion, please.
I will. I move that the job description updates as presented be approved.
Second.
Discussion. Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right. W. Would someone read the motion, please?
I move that the proposed exchange of land with the city of Green Bay at the following sites: Beaumont Park Elementary School, Chapel Park Elementary School, Fort Howard Park, Jefferson HSLC, Head Start Learning Center, thanks, Fort Howard Elementary School, Keller Elementary School, MacArthur Elementary School, Beaver Dam Park, Nicolay Park and Elementary School, and Sullivan Park Elementary School, including the described agreements and details as presented, be approved.
I'll
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Andrew?
I just want to review before we vote, what control we have over there's the 9-month planning options. If it doesn't get concluded in 9 months, can they do what they want, or does it just start over? I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
I think Kayla will be joining us. Go ahead, Lynn. In the meantime, go ahead.
And I want to add to that I have the same concern, and I'd like someone to explain to me what this 9-month planning option even is. I don't understand what that means.
Okay. You might want to repeat your question. Oop. Okay. Andrew, could you repeat your question?
Yes, what is the 9-month planning option? What does that give us the right to do? And I think I know the answer to that, but also what happens after, where is it after 9 months if the thing doesn't happen?
And I'm going to add in Lynn's question, month planning option. So then the 9-month planning option, again, as we've discussed, the district is not realtors, we're not brokers, we're not in real estate. The city has an entire department for redevelopment. So the city and the district would be partnering on the 2 properties, Elmore and Tank, for redevelopment options, including what the city is primarily looking at those 2 properties for is housing, and in particular, probably lower income housing to meet the needs in the city. The 9-month option, okay. So the 9-month option would be to allow the city to work with their contacts to find a developer for those two properties. And ultimately, the board has the final authority as to whether you would agree to what the city finds and what the city is able to develop those properties into. You have the final say. So if the city and the developer come up with an idea that the board does not agree with, or it doesn't meet what you're looking for, then the board has the right to turn that offer down.
What about what's special about the 9 months?
Thank you. So the city has the first right to develop that during that 9 months. If they're not able to get a plan and a broker deal together, then they no longer have essentially the first rights to develop that property. Then we're able to market that to anybody else. Thank you.
Lynn?
So in other words, during that 9-month period, the city has the right to make the plans, but we still get to approve the plans.
That's correct.
All right.
I think Andrew has one more question.
Does anybody else need to speak first? Okay, Andrew.
Okay, so I'm still gonna vote no, and the reason I'm gonna vote no is that we are putting in the language, the city will encourage affordable housing. Encourage and maybe and things are just things that don't belong in motions, and I don't need to hear again that we're not we're not in the real estate business. We have a rare opportunity to use the fact that we own these buildings to be more insistent that we do something that the community really needs, and affordable housing is one of them, and there might be some, a couple of other things. I do like that the board would still vote afterwards, but I think it's de-emphasized too much in this, and I'm gonna vote no, and I hope it will come back to us as something I can vote yes on.
Brian?
This question's from Melissa through the chair. It would be impossible for us to make a motion to strike certain language because this would then have to go back to the other party involved, I would assume.
Yes, if we change the language in what is being presented tonight, then we would need to go back to the city. The city council has approved.
Okay, thank you. What I was looking at is it will not be a requirement part. We still have the intent on there, so obviously I'm not going to make a motion on that to keep the process moving forward.
All right, we're still on W and we're still taking questions. Go ahead, Lynn.
So I just don't understand this because I see Andrew's point. Number 2 says that there will be a 9-month planning option, and you're telling us we get to approve the plans, but number 8 says, or number 7 says, whatever it is, they will encourage affordable housing, but it will not be a requirement. So they might come back to us within that 9-month period and say, we're gonna make it a shopping mall, and we're gonna vote no. Or they might come back and say, we're gonna make it affordable housing, and we'll vote yes. I just don't get it.
So that, what we're encouraging and what the city, I probably, sorry, I had to miss that. What the city has, provided interest in affordable housing, restricting the property for sale. The developer can develop plans with the city and move forward with those plans. We are not putting any restrictions on that property if that plan was to change. If the developer and the city had to come to an agreement to make something work down the line, that would be up to that. After we sell the property, we would not have, nor do we have now, the ability to decide what's going to be done with that property. So we are encouraged, the recommendation is not to put additional restrictions on the property.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The result of the individual board member votes are as follows. Crossan, yes. Gerlach, yes. Mills, yes. Lyerly, yes. McCoy, yes. Becker, no.
Okay, we're moving on to some roof votes. Go ahead, Brian.
I'd like to make a motion that we combine items X, Y, and Z into one item.
Second.
All right. All right, any discussion on that combination? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, they're combined. So would someone make the motion then?
I move that we approve items X, Y, and Z as presented.
Second.
All right, discussion or questions? Kinsey? Yes.
Crossan,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right, 3 of our schools are getting new roofs.
I'll move that we combine AA through FF.
Second.
All right. Motion to combine again. Anybody want to talk about that or ask questions about that? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they're combined. Would someone make
I'll
a
move
motion?
AA through FF for approval.
Second.
All right. Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we have one final item, GG with someone, oh, wait a minute. So,
Yeah, it's available it's posted and I sent it. It's posted as a topic and I gave you the resolution, so we should be able to do it.
where's the resolution?
I shared it to Kinsley, so I thought we'd just put it on screen.
So it's not an email. You just shared it with Kinsey?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I was going crazy.
So it's very basic. The whereas are, preliminary. They don't really do anything anyways. The point of the resolution, it doesn't force anything to happen with Weequahic. It directs the administration to look at some of these other options and to postpone solicitation of bids until we hear more back. I would like to see us look at creative opportunities for the use of the Weequahic School building and grounds instead of just get it up for sale. And I intentionally made the resolution just that the administration is directed to work with staff and community on determining whether creative opportunities for the use of the Weequahic School building and grounds exist, and if there would be reasonable demand for the use of the facilities, and to postpone any solicitation of bids for the facilities and grounds of Weequahic Elementary School until after reporting back to the board regarding the above and the board making a decision.
Can you scroll a little bit more, Kinsey?
I mean, we can. I mean, I'm waiting to see if there's a second though.
I'll second it.
You want me to read the whereas too? Okay. Okay. I mean,
Okay.
I'll do it. Sure. Whereas it is the mission of the Green Bay Area Public School District to educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world. And in an effort to achieve that mission, the district offers a variety of programming to meet the needs of all students. And whereas Wisconsin Statute 120.12.1 and 120.44.2 allow the Green Bay Area Public School District Board of Education to have the possession, care, control, and management of the property and affairs of the school district. And whereas in order to address the district's impending budget deficit and the decrease in student enrollment, the Board of Education has made the decision to close Weequahic Elementary School and consolidate the attendance area into Red Smith K-8 school. And whereas the Weequahic School building and grounds are located in a unique setting that lends itself well to outdoor and environmental education. And whereas the vast majority of the ongoing savings related to closure of the school have already been realized via reduction in full-time staff to operate Weequahic as a conventional school. And whereas the Green Bay Area Public School District may have a unique opportunity for the Weequahic School building to host creative opportunities for GBAPS students and the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Green Bay Area Public School District Administration is directed to work with the staff in the community, to work with the staff in the community on determining whether creative opportunities for the use of the Weequahic School building and grounds exist, and if there would be reasonable demand for use of the facilities. And 2, to postpone any solicitation of bids for the facilities and grounds of Weequahic Elementary School until after reporting back to the board regarding the above and the board making a decision. Be it further resolved that the execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the Board of Education's approval of this action and the authority granted herein at a duly noticed meeting of the Board of Education held on March 17th, 2025, respectfully submitted by the School Board of the Green Bay Area School District.
Brian,
Second this, mainly so we had an option to discuss it. I'm just concerned with us looking at voting on it today when we just had it with us. And I'm interested if Andrew would be willing to postpone actually voting on it until our next meeting.
So I'd be willing to postpone it any amount of time as long as there's a good faith understanding that, you know, obviously we wouldn't be going out to bid on it in the meantime. A resolution is probably honestly overkill for this, but we don't really have another mechanism to do just a board directive. The intent is just to ask the staff to investigate. So we can postpone it, but all we're postponing is asking the staff to investigate. So I just thought that I would write it in a way that I thought would be a fairly easy approval, but I'd be okay with postponing.
anyone else? Lynn?
If we postpone this vote until the next meeting, is there any problem? I'd like to ask the staff that. Is that going to hold the staff up from doing anything? Andrew said he doesn't want it to go out for bid. Was that planned to be done before the next meeting? Hale?
So, Brian,
So I would like, unless I'm gonna hope I get the phrasing of this right, I'd like to offer friendly to my own motion second that this be added to the next board meeting, to table until the next board meeting.
Would you want this on the work session for discussion and then the regular meeting? So you just want it on the regular board meeting in April? Or a special board meeting prior to the work session?
I would like it at the work session. We're able to have the discussion now with the resolution and then be able to vote on it at the work session. I plan on making a motion also for another thing at the end of this.
So we would need to post for a special board meeting prior to the work session, because we don't vote at work sessions.
If it's posted that we can vote at it, are we allowed to?
we have a board policy that says we don't take action at work sessions, and that's why we have a special board meeting then prior to the work session. So it would be on the same day, we just have to post for a special board meeting.
That's what I would like.
Melissa, can you just kind of stay there for a second? I feel like this is going to get complicated. Go ahead.
As I understand it, this is simply asking the board or the staff to do some work and to look into this. If we tell them to do that now, rather than wait till either another board meeting or a special board meeting, they're not going to do anything between now and then. And that's time wasted, I would think, if in fact they are going to do this. So I'd be in the camp of saying, of voting on whether or not to do this right now so that the staff, if we vote yes, can get to work.
All right.
Can you give that to everybody?
Hang on just a second. I'm not sure what the motion is on the table right now. Brian, can you reiterate?
The original motion was that this be, the original motion that we haven't voted on is that we approve this. The friendly that I offered to Andrew was to table it until our next board meeting, which would then need to be actually a special board meeting at our next meeting.
Okay.
And the thing to discuss right now is whether Andrew accepts it as a friendly or not, and if not, I'm going to offer it as a motion.
Andrew.
So I don't think I can. I mean, a friendly is to like change language or something, and you're moving to just table to the next meeting. So I don't think it exists in the form of a friendly, but I guess with regards to tabling it, so I intentionally wrote this the way I did so that I was only asking staff to investigate. And I certainly would have had much more lead time on it and things if I had my plan for week-week in here, but I intentionally don't because I did want staff to be able to look, right? So I don't know I don't see what's gained by tabling a motion if the motion just directs the staff to investigate something.
So you're saying no to the friendly?
Well, no, what I'm saying is it doesn't, what I'm saying is that it can't be a friendly because tabling is a whole different thing.
Okay.
I'm going to speak to that. I think you're incorrect on it, but I will remove my friendly. I'm going to offer it as a motion in a moment. James also had his hand.
Hang on. So James, no, Lynn and then James. Go ahead, Lynn.
So I'm going to remove my friendly. So what we're
Yes.
speaking to is the original motion. So the resolution itself, I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to talk about that? Okay, hang on just a second. James?
Yeah, Andrew, I hear what you're saying. My concern is, I can't put a box around the word and investigate. And I don't know, without you helping scope the investigation, I don't know when they would be done with said investigation of opportunities. And that lack of scoping is concerning to me. And I think it directs resources that they would go do work, come back, and we would be in a position to go, no, not that work, do other work, right? And that's the scenario I'm very, very interested in avoiding.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I do not support directing our staff to investigate this. We have made a decision about week-week, and I'm ready to stay with that decision. I'm ready to vote on this.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until a special board meeting prior to our next board meeting.
Second.
Brian?
This gives us a little more time to kind of flesh this out a little bit before we take a vote on it. That's my intent with it.
Okay. Does anyone want to speak to Brian's motion? Go ahead.
Other than I'm not in favor of doing that.
Okay. There wasn't a second to your motion, Andrew? Okay, I'm sorry, it's late, guys, okay? Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with tabling this if this helps and I can help make it clear. I really thought it was worded very, very soft as far as how much work was requested or something. Because until after reporting back to the board on the above, probably could be relatively quick, but obviously it's not that clear to people, so I would actually now support, I think we should postpone it. We should, table it.
Okay, the motion is to table it or postpone, to table till a special, what would be a special meeting at the work session in a couple weeks. That is what we'll be voting on this time, okay? So, anyone else want to speak to that? All right, Kinsey? Yes, we're ready to vote.
Becker,
Aye.
McCoy,
No.
Mills,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Nay.
No.
Gerlach.
No.
Okay. Going back to Andrew's original resolution and motion. Is there anyone else have anything else to say about that? Go ahead, Andrew.
This is an attempt for me to play ball your way. Just asking the staff to look, okay? If that is such a big deal on something that I've mentioned so many times, that now is you're gonna vote no to even ask the question, that'll be really disappointing.
I'll speak to that. Brian?
When we went into this right sizing of the district and looking at different options for different schools, I've mentioned many times, this is a once in a generation opportunity. This is not committing any resources other than some time to look at opportunities for it. Wequiak is a unique property. I support Andrew's intent of this resolution. This gives us a direction to give to the district and to looking at some other options as well. It's not committing to anything other than that. I agree with you, Andrew.
All right. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, Andrew, I know that you have spoken to this on many occasions. And when I looked at the wording of the resolution, now my no vote is and you can interpret it the way you want to interpret it. What I'm struggling with is trying to what the answer would be, right? Because either it's a quick no, or it's another facet that we have to evaluate in trying to remedy the $10 to $12 million budget, because we can't do it for free, right? We will incur additional costs up to this, and so if and that was not really kind of part of the evaluation when we had conversations several weeks ago. I have a hard time introducing a programmatic change that will, regardless of how much it is, incur additional expenses where we have the opportunity not when we're we just took a vote on plan changes and there are significant votes ahead. So I am trying. I'm not trying to just vote no, and that I don't agree with you, and that there is an opportunity there. And just as I evaluate the nature of the opportunity versus the reality that we're in, that is the nature of my vote.
All right. Rick?
I go back to when the decision to close a school was made, was it implied or was it something other than the disposal of the property? If, and I don't know that we answered that when we talked about closing a school. We simply said closing the school was the better option, given the other options that we had. But then at some future date, there would be conversation about what to do with the property. But I had it in my mind at the time was that the property would be disposed of, sold, and all of that cost would be ultimately removed from the district. This is a new conversation that I would think we would have to, we're in the midst of disposing of property right now because I think that has been Andrew's question is separate from whatever else we're doing with this property. I don't necessarily have a problem with looking into it, although I agree with James in that this thing could be very open-ended if you don't, and I worry, Andrew, that if you don't get an answer that you like, this thing could keep going on and on. So the question then we would have to agree on, how much time are we going to give the staff to do this? And what are we going to look for from the staff? That all is going to take time to flesh that out. I am necessarily not in favor of dragging this out because we are going to be incurring costs as we drag this thing out. We're going to be paying insurance costs. We're going to be cost of maintenance, whatever else going on with those facilities, and I'm concerned about the cost of us going through this process. So I would not be in favor of this being a long drawn out thing. Go ahead.
You're
I'm
done?
done.
Okay,
I'm done.
Andrew, and then Brian.
There was discussion, because I went back and read my quote on it, which was, I will vote yes on closing Weequahic with the understanding that there will be a good faith up or down vote on doing, I don't remember, the creative or different with the property. Okay. A vote of we're not even going to allow the staff to ask the question is not that good faith vote on what to do with Weequahic. Now, no one else promised a good faith up or down vote on Weequahic. I thought that I was being a team player, voting yes on probably one of the hardest to justify as a full-blown school with a principal and a full-time staff. And I guess this is what I get for playing ball. I should have just dug in and voted no on closing Weequahic 2.
So those statements were made during an open session school board meeting?
During open session school, way back when we closed Weequahic.
So
It was,
not last summer, but the summer before?
yeah.
Okay. Brian?
I appreciate what Rick is saying on there. When we looked at these motions, they weren't to sell, they were to close and then look at what we're going to do with the property after. And I think it's a key point because the other items we've brought up of what we're going to do with them, to sell or to look at land swaps, different options with that. So I think that this resolution falls into that same category. I don't recall a board meeting saying we were going to sell Weequahic. We were voting to close it because that started the process with it. So I understand the intent with it, but I cannot recall a vote specifically from this board to sell any of the buildings until they've come up after. So I just want to clarify that. And I think the intent of that was addressing Andrew's concern and a concern that I've had also of once in a generation opportunities with these.
All right. Has everyone had a chance to say what they want to say? All right, the motion on the table is Andrew's proposed resolution. Kinsey?
Gerlach,
No.
Crossan,
Aye.
Lyerly,
No.
Mills,
Aye.
McCoy,
No.
Becker,
Aye.
we have a tie. So motion fails.
Okay. All right, that completes our, oh no, I'm sorry, Brian, you had something else.
And Melissa, I might need your help on this as well, sorry. Under agenda setting, we always have a board meeting schedule, and I would like to make a motion. Do I need to make a motion to hold a meeting first and then address it, or make a motion of what would be covered in the meeting?
Why don't you explain what you're trying to do?
What I would like to do is make a motion to discuss the options for Catherine Johnson. So discussion item 4A of today's agenda, make it a actionable item.
So I think your motion would be to hold a special board meeting prior to the work session in April for purposes of bringing forth action on the continuation of Catherine Johnson Academy.
I would like to make a motion to hold a special board meeting before our next board meeting to make an actionable item on the Catherine Johnson Academy of Enriched Virtual Learning.
Second.
The reason I'm speaking to this and making the motion, we have an unusual situation in April where we have a work session before a business session. This originally I envisioned was going to be an actionable item today. And with the possibility of a current makeup of the board shifting, with 3 people up for election, I think this is something that we should wrap up prior to asking a new board to vote on it at a different item. This is something we've discussed for quite some time, so that's why I'm asking that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Lynn?
I'm confused because I thought that we gave David Johns some things to look into for us. So is the assumption that he will give us the information and we'll then be prepared to vote on it?
That's my assumption.
And I think David indicated that he would be able to offer or be able to provide that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we need any more discussion?
We're talking about creating a separate meeting, another meeting.
It would be on the same night, but it'll be,
Oh,
it'll have to
okay.
be just before our regular work session because it has that be its own meeting in order to take a vote. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be 5 minutes. Well, maybe not 5, but yeah. So, all right. Anyone else have any more questions about this motion? I don't know, Kenzie, how do you want to vote on this? Voice vote? Okay.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan.
Aye.
All right. That passes. That is the end of our agenda. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Bye, James. We're adjourned.
Bye.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.